Who was Mike Bailey? I'm a magician giving away secrets. Everyone knew it was him. He was the fox. Well, Kitsune. He was Kitsune, Mike Bailey. And he was awesome. Was awesome.
Next, you're going to start telling us who all the ants were in Shikara. But
no. That would never. Sworn to secrecy.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to All Beer Inside. We are doing a quarantine edition of the episode. Joining me on this week's episode, we have Troy Nelson and Nick Stapp, 2/3 of Off the Hop Rope podcast.
We'd like to apologize that is 2/3 and not a full whole. Mark wishes he could be here. He's going to reap the benefit of the wonderful beer that we're drinking this evening. But duty calls. Mark is one of the busiest people I know, traveling back and forth between Florida and managing what feels like 9 podcasts all under the same umbrella. So Mark Sterling sends his regards, but Troy Nelson, that's not bad. That's not bad.
No. Yeah. Hey, one of you would have just been as great, but both of you is even better. So
that's a really roundabout way of saying, I wish I just had Troy. And no. I'm so grateful that you said that. It's been a while since I've had to stroke my ego on a podcast, and might I say.
Hey, last time I checked, you guys weren't feuding on the indies, so I'm trying to avoid that right now.
Oh, I understand, yes. Nick will do anything to not have to wrestle me again.
Ever.
Perfect. All right, so I actually did it. I sent you guys beer, even though I wrote Canadian or Quebec maple syrup to actually get the beers across the border.
Yes.
And it is a pro wrestling beer. So we have from Ross-le-Boc, artisan brasseur, based out of Saint-Jean-Port-Joli, Quebec. It is Razor, or La Razor, which is a Haskap basil Goza. I do have a quick little description. I'm not going to read it in French, as most of our audience is English.
I would like you to read it in French, and I would like to translate it.
Okay. So,
I would like to translate it.
Well, we actually have this on our audio show. A friend of, not friend of the show, actually kind of acquaintance of All Beer Inside, Mr. Old School, does terrible translating. So, la Razor est la foie surette, salée, fruitée et herbacée.
Herbal fruit ghosts.
In a sense, yeah, it's sour, salty, fruity, and herbaceous at the same time.
Oh,
yes.
Herbaceous.
So
refreshing.
Yeah. Une bonne bière surée, rafraîchissante, à laquelle on a ajouté un tonne de camaris local et un peu de basilic frais.
I know strawberry, de fraise.
Camaris is Haskap, so that basically translates to a refreshing, good sour beer to which we added a ton of local Haskap berries and a little fresh basil. A surprising and above all delicious mixture.
It certainly is.
And then I already mentioned that. Ça te jette les papillets à l'autre bout du ring, mais au lieu de faire mal, ça fait du bien. Yeah, my French has got to be better for where I live. So it throws your taste buds to the other end of the ring, but instead of hurting it, it feels good.
Ooh. You might say that our taste buds are walking the razor's edge.
Ooh,
so
ever.
It is coming in at 4.2 ABV, which is pretty good. I don't know any noted IBU, but let's do a virtual toast, gentlemen. A toast. Get this today.
I like that.
Yes.
Oh, that's really good. I don't remember when's the last time we did a ghost, Troy. You remember stuff better than I do.
So we're talking about a ghost, not a sour.
I didn't say sour.
That's what I'm saying. A ghost, not a sour. Yeah. I don't remember the last time we did one. But the one thing that's distinguishable about this ghost, that if you are a ghost drinker out there, is that ghosts tend to be at least definitely lighter in color, not as heavily fruited. You know, a ghost is supposed to be a little bit lighter. It's funny, salty too. You see a lot of sea salt and lime ghosts. Look at this. It's like drinking pomegranate juice in color. It's like someone strained beets in it. And my goodness, it's a gorgeous color.
Yeah.
The word isn't sour. It's a ghost. It's tart, but it is very tart. And again, ghosts are usually kind of that middle-bodied tartness. But this is a lip smacker right here.
Yeah, sure is.
So as somebody who's able to get their beers, and obviously we're going to mention their other wrestling beer shortly after, but they're solid beer producers and hopeful future interview of this show because 3-hour drive is a little bit for a one day, so I'd have to make a weekend of it.
Do they distribute in your area?
They do all over Quebec.
Okay. I was always just curious because eventually someone's got to obviously Scott Hall has no idea that his very body is put on a can right now.
Zero idea.
Want a piece of that pie. A little bit tougher for Bam Bam, but Bam Bam's no longer with us, but I'm sure that he would love royalties.
Yeah. I'm sure there's some sort of, I know in the US it's a parody law, so I'm pretty sure they're finding that way around it.
Oh, this is very much not a parody. This isn't just Razor Ramon. This is Scott Hall on the can as I'm zooming myself in here. But I think it's interesting that both these beers, they have Razor for Razor Ramon and they have Bam Bam, IPA dedicated to Bam Bam Bigelow, which we did on our podcast, Off the Hop Rope. And we paired it with Taz and Bam Bam from Living Dangerously 98, where Bam Bam wins the TV title from Taz in his hometown of Asbury Park, New Jersey.
I'd always mention to a friend of your show and ours, Justin Summers, that if I ever had a chance to go on, I would have brought down some Bam Bam beers and suggested Bam Bam versus Bret Hart.
King of the Ring 93?
Yeah, that is, from what I understand, one of the all-time Bam Bam matches on King of the Ring. So
I will tell you this, it's an excellent match. Bam Bam and Bret were kind of married to each other on the house show tour that summer. 3 televised chances to watch that match in theory. They have a match, I believe, in Spain that is available on one of the Coliseum home video releases. I don't think those are back on the WWE network yet, but it's a very good Bret Hart Bam Bam match that once it's back on the network, seek it out. Then they have a match at the 93 King of the Ring that is televised on pay-per-view from Dayton, Ohio. And then they meet again at the end of July 93 on Monday Night Raw, where Bam Bam gets the win back because Bret Hart gets counted out, trying to get rid of Jerry Lawler, making fun of his parents.
Yes.
The founders of Canada, if I'm not mistaken, Stu and Helen Hart, I believe.
Founders of Canadian wrestling, if you
I was
want
going
to
to
put
say, Stu Hart was the first prime minister of Canada. You're not fooling me.
Stu stretched all the land across the top of America.
Yes. He started up in the Yukon because he couldn't quite make it into Alaska and worked his way all around Canada. From Yukon to the Maritimes, Stu Hart probably stretched one of your family members.
Oh, God.
Awesome. So thanks for joining me. And so I'd like to know, Off the Hop Rope, I understand you're on hiatus, but where did that idea start? Where did that idea kind of ferment or germinate, as you want to say?
Mark got signed, so we had to stop doing the show. That was it.
Well, he wants to know where it started, not where it's ended right now.
Paused.
So we are in a little bit of a pause right now, and it's funny because I believe last week would have been our 3-year anniversary.
Yep, that was 2 weeks. About 2 weeks ago.
We never missed a week, not once. There was always an episode for the better part of 2 years and 11 months. But again, we are very happy that Mark is able to do exactly what he's doing. It's a good thing that he doesn't have time for this, if that makes any sense. We miss doing it. We're hoping someday we'll come back, especially because it is his brainchild. Mark wanted to get into the podcasting game. He very much is a whiz when it comes to editing, recording. That's what he did at his shoot job, which for those of you that aren't keen on professional wrestling, we use the term shoot to denote the word real. Oh, I just pulled back the curtain.
No,
here we go.
I'm going to get blackballed from the business now. So Mark's shoot job was doing a lot of heavy editing and stuff. He wanted to get into the podcast game. Easily recruited Nick. Nick's like, I'm in. Mark said, I'm going to drive off a bridge. Nick, do you want to join me? Nick would have said yes.
Probably.
It took a
as
little
long as there was a wrestling ring at the bottom of the bridge, I probably would have went with
somewhere to take the bump.
Exactly. I said, I don't know. And he told me this premise. It's like we watch a wrestling and we pair a craft beer with it. Because Mark was starting to get into the craft beer, which I had always kind of been a fan of since college. I know we might want to talk about that later, so I'll do that for that. But it took a couple weeks where Mark, I didn't have a computer at the time. Again, I was just working off an iPad because I was post-college. I wasn't really using a computer or anything. And I wasn't in like a hurry to get another one. I kind of was because the iPad was kind of dying finally. But Mark's like, we're trying to think of names for it for him and Nick. And when they come up with Off the Hop Rope and I hear it and I'm just like, oh, that's a hook.
Yeah.
I'm in. And then literally a couple weeks later, we recorded our first 3 episodes.
Yep.
They always say the key to like podcast stuff, people like episodic things, release 3 right at the same time. So people will listen to all 3 and be like, oh, I need another one. They'll tune in the next week right away. And yeah, we did not miss a week for 168. Well, really, if you take away the first 3 episodes and you take away that from how many episodes, so 165 weeks straight without missing an episode. So
That's a lot. I mean, as this show, I believe this episode will be 84. We started just before the pandemic, which is great because I'm getting to talk to all these brewers and having fun. And then, hey, you're staying home for the next 15 months. I'm doing what now? And work's like, take home your work laptop on St. Patrick's Day because you might have to work from home. And oh, guess what? You're working from home till further notice, which is fun because saving money and not spending it on gas every day is awesome.
That was great.
I've become accustomed to working from home, and I right now I will say this used to be my laptop setup for the podcast. It is now with I have my computer, my laptop on my work laptop right at the moment, and I have 2 monitors that are enormous in front of me. It's not the desk it used to be, but here we are again. So very much.
But I mean, you guys are also, independent wrestlers on the independent scene now. Obviously, when stuff shut down, how much did you guys question, like, where are we going from here? Because I know you guys kept the show going for a while. Obviously, if everybody's locked down in their homes, you can record, and you actually have the convenience of mailing beers in America, where unfortunately that's not really an option in Canada.
Oh, so. We don't have an option either.
Oh, okay.
It's very illegal to mail beer.
Quite illegal.
Very illegal. It's what are you sending? Soda, that new Mountain Dew. My friend in New York, Nick, he couldn't find the new Baja Punch.
Could not find Mountain Dew anywhere.
But no, not Mountain Dew. Mountain Dew Baja Punch. I had to send it along to him. All the while, it's Razor Ramon Ghosts.
Which is, I believe I put on our documents to get it across.
Syrup.
Yes, Quebec. 3 cans of Quebec maple syrup. So
3 cans of syrup. Yes,
and I even syrup. As you know, Troy, how you received them wrapped in paper, wrapped in and rubber.
Yeah, very safe. That's the key. That's how you're going to get in trouble, especially internationally. Is like, why is this thing why is this liquid leaking? Mailing liquor over international waters. Like, well,
yeah. No. Oh, border, not really water, thankfully. But
hey, we had one guy send us beer from the UK, so I mean, well, gloves are off with this podcast. Yeah. We don't mess around.
Yeah, no, I mean that's where I'm kind of jealous as a Canadian. We have antiquated, old, draconian liquor laws where I know, for example, you guys are in Mass and New York, so you could get beers from, let's say, Vermont and California, where here in Canada, living in Quebec, I cannot get beers from the Maritimes or Ontario or Saskatchewan. So it sucks. Every other Canadian I've spoken with on the show is, we're proponents of let's fix these. So I can only hope. Maybe COVID will change some things that it did in Canada when it comes to some other things. So I can only hope. Yeah,
I hope so. Otherwise, sounds like it's going to be another 3-hour trip for you, another 6-hour trip for you.
Yeah.
Heading to Thunder Bay, Ontario, just to get a couple of beers.
That's a little. So it's about a 15-hour drive around the Great Lakes. Having driven from Montreal to Calgary across, it was 3 days. Yeah, 3 days.
Yeah.
So, but that was before I got into craft beer. So unfortunately, I didn't know then my love of what craft beer would be. So you had mentioned, Troy, you were already getting into craft beer prior to the show. Do you remember like how you discovered it? Who introduced you to it? What was like that first craft beer where you're like, this is it. This is where I'm getting into craft beer.
So for me, when I was in college, everyone was drinking shitty beer. And I was just like, I don't know why. I'm just like, to me, when I was drinking age in America, it's 21. Like, when you're 19, 20, I wasn't the type of kid that was like, I didn't glorify the idea of drinking 23 beers and just sleeping till 5 o'clock at night the next day. I always thought it was garbage. I'm like, I always associated Ice House, Schlitz with that type of people. I'm like, I don't really want to be like that. So I'm like, Sam Adams seems like a classy beer. You don't see anyone ever polishing off 9 Sam Adams or anything. And I liked it. I'm like, okay. And that's when I understood like lager. Okay. Not that all these other things could be lagers in theory, but like Boston lager, bold, has flavor, has a little bit of love in it. One of the true OGs of craft beer, the Boston Beer Company. I want to try all the different Sam Adams that I could get my hand on. Some of the fancier ones, in which case my favorite Sam Adams does not exist anymore, actually. It's called Cranberry Lambic. Ooh. Sam Adams had a Cranberry Lambic that we put out in mixed packs as well as 6-packs. It was popular enough, and I loved it. You could only find it, not even necessarily at the grocery store. You had to go to like the specialty beer store. So Bert's Better Beers in Manchester, New Hampshire was my first foray into like, this is a toy store. Like I've never heard of any of these beers before. And even in some of them I had, I'm like, you see Harpoon out of Boston, Mass had beers there, but they had like their fancier series stuff that I'd never seen before. And then that's when you start getting into the things like Wells Banana Bread and Revolution out of Chicago and all those guys that have been around forever. Sierra Nevada at the time was still like, you'd be able to find regular Sierra Nevada at like the New Hampshire grocery stores. But if you ever saw some Torpedo, like their double IPA, which was literally at the time so West Coast, it was like just drinking a glass of marijuana at the time. It was like, this is great. Now my palate won't allow myself to have a Torpedo probably. But that's what it was, is like, I wanted to learn more and more. And like, not that I didn't enjoy a nice Coors Light on football Sunday, but my Wednesday night, like while I'm doing some studying or writing a paper beer, Sam Adams or any of those guys. And then it evolved to that when I moved to New York. Craft beer was starting to really become popular. Astoria, Queens, where I lived, had opened up their first brewery in Astoria, that area of Queens, since Prohibition. And that was starting to take over. And I never looked back. I started getting craft beer from all around the country. And then especially being in New England, you hear about the rumored, like just legendary beers of Vermont and stuff. The Alchemist, right in my own, I say backyard, it's like an hour and a half away, but Treehouse Brewing Company in Massachusetts. All these great breweries that you don't realize, like, oh my God, these are the best kept secrets. And they're no longer a secret. Here we are. I bet, my junior year of college was 2010 and 11. And 11 and 12, my senior year, and like, my God, the game has changed in the last decade. So that's where I became a fan and have grown my love of craft beer over the last decade.
Now, Nick, I know sometimes listening to Off the Hop Rope, you do like to go back to the BMCs on occasion, Pabst and things like that. Since you have Pabst even as a sponsor for the show, or had Pabst as a sponsor for the show, and Mark is obviously still with former Kurt Hawkins of WWE, still I'm sure shilling Pabst Blue Ribbon, the coffee, I believe it was.
Yep,
hard coffee. Yes.
Hard coffee.
So that's
really
awesome.
good.
But do you remember your discovery of craft beer, Nick?
So it's a nice wholesome tale. Back in the summer of 2001, you would have found Nick sitting in the woods with his friends drinking 40s of Old English and Miller Genuine Draft. Fast forward,
just ripping
I don't know,
clove cigarettes.
Certainly smoking clove cigarettes. That's not
they
a lie.
They don't make cloves anymore, right?
Nah, they're legal. They're very legal now.
I like how they're illegal.
I think they're illegal, yeah. Fast forward about 14 years, my former partner got me into Founders All Day IPA.
Yes.
She was like, hey, this is beer. We drink beer. It's good. It's not shitty. It's not, it's not bad like all the other stuff. It's good.
One of the original session beers.
Right. Yeah, but we turned it into multiple sessions, and then it, became, as Troy mentioned before, sleeping until 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Gave up on it. Felt like I was getting a little bloated. Fast forward to 2018, Mark approaches me about doing a beer podcast. He says, "Hey Nick, you drink crappy beer. You want to drink good beer once a week with me and Troy?" And I said, "You goddamn right I do." And off we went. Our first episode was Blood of the Unicorn by, what is it, Ironworks?
No, Pipeworks.
Pipeworks, that's it. Sorry,
Pipeworks out of Chicago.
Pipeworks out of Chicago. Our first episode, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Bret Hart, WrestleMania 13, Blood of the Unicorn, fell in love with it. Again, I don't love all craft beer, but I've become quite a big fan of a sour. So if I'm ever feeling froggy on a Friday on payday, when I'm done doing all the degenerates taxes, I will go to Connolly Beverage in Hempstead, New York, and I will pick up whatever sour I see generally. The most appealing sour I can find there. I haven't been drinking as much since the podcast has been on hiatus, but at least once a month, I'll spring for a sour, or, like maybe a double IPA. If I can't figure out what sour I'm looking for exactly, I'll jump for a double IPA. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. Usually I'll go for a stone born by, like a drink by, because those are always like the killers.
All reliable. Anything stone in general, but the enjoy by whatever date.
Yeah, those are always killers for me. So it's either a sour or a stone that I'll go for now. Just, I'll just go in and just be like, all right, this is what I'm doing. All right, one quick segue real quick. Right as the pandemic started, I had to sometimes pick up the beers for the boys and send them up. Yes. And the one like Monday or Tuesday or something, I was, again, nothing going on. Connolly Beverage was open, but like very limited hours. And I went in and I sent a voice note to the chat. I said, guys, craft beer is actually pretty cool. There's a lot of good stuff here. And I think Troy said, I've never been more proud of you in my life. So that's where we're at right now.
He was going out on his own, getting bomb pop flavored sours.
Ooh, baby.
'Tis the season.
Yeah, no, it's been quite the pandemic. Having sat at home, not even really being able to travel, because in Canada we were a lot more locked down than America was. There was no we don't have the resources that America has. We can't do this. So it's like sat at home for since September of 2020 until recently. So I got to visit family in Ontario, and I brought home about $600 worth of beer. So yeah. Yeah,
see, it's all depending on what type of beer you buy. Like, that's the thing. And I'm not necessarily, I wouldn't call myself like a purist in that sense, because all the rules can be broken for the most part. But if you have a nice fine double IPA, I want to drink that within 2 weeks of me having it. So the idea of, granted, $600 worth of beer in this day and age could be 12 cans, depending on but that's the thing. I know I can have a Pilsner in that fridge sit a little bit longer. I don't mind that, like, I'll drink stouts right into March and April and stuff, even early April, depending on how cool. It's still snowing in New England in April sometimes. Yeah. But the thing is like, once I start seeing stouts coming out, I'm like, oh, I can buy that now. If I'm not like crazy about it, or I really want to save it or something, I can drink one a month. That'll sit and be just fine 4 months from now, 6 months from now.
Real quick snapshot of where I've come with my craft beer love. I bought a 6-pack of Mad Elf in December that I have resisted the urge to touch a single bottle of, because I'm waiting for probably the Wednesday before Thanksgiving to crack open my first bottle. So that's how far Nick has come over the last 20 something years.
Are you familiar with Mad Elf from Trogs?
Yes, I've had Mad Elf before, because it's one of the Trogs' like main ones. So I was lucky enough to get it here. Actually, starting the year of the podcast, so November 2019, I actually started cellaring ageable stouts and stuff. Do you guys do that at all? Like in your travels, when it comes to, here's my kind of weekend job as an indie wrestler, and I'm at this brewery, and they have this stout. It's ageable. Do you kind of grab those when you guys are out there?
I try my best. I mean, I haven't had anything. I finished off anything I had cellared this past November. I moved from having I had an old liquor cabinet, and I had some stuff cellaring under there. And before I moved, it was it had been a year. Like, I had a Southern Tier bourbon barrel aged pumpkin. So that had been a year. I let that sit for a year. I think I had an old Grand Cru Mad Elf that was sitting under there for a year. So I have cellared in the past, but nothing at the moment.
I'll if you guys are back on, I'm just gonna let you know for next year. I don't know what kind of match you're gonna do, but there's this brewery in Canada called Flying Monkeys. Out of Barrie, Ontario. Fantastic brewers, amazing. And they make what's called the Chocolate Manifesto once a year. It's a triple chocolate stout. It tastes like you're drinking beer that's made of chocolate milk. So maybe I could send one along and maybe hop on an off the hop rope, since I'm a wrestling fan. Speaking when it comes to your wrestling, what made you guys decide, Nick, to achieve your certified public accounting and bring that as you becoming a wrestler, and Troy, you being a drunk in the ring from the matches I've seen on YouTube?
Correct. Yes. You can go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
Being a wrestling CPA was, honestly, while I've been a wrestling fan my entire life, I did backyard wrestling when I was in my late tweens, early teens. To me, the working man who wants to beat someone up on the weekends is the American and global dream, really, but especially the American dream, because us Americans are, we're what we are. Some of us just don't want to fight people on the weekends, or some of us do, depending on what baseball team you're into. But yeah, to me, the CPA dream, or the the construct of the CPA, of the wrestling CPA, is a very American dream. It's a very, it's, I mean, who can't relate to that? You work 9 to 5, or well, accountants work more than 9 to 5, but you work, this time to this time, Monday through Friday, sometimes Saturday, and he gets to punch someone in the nose on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, sometimes, a Thursday. So
Nick is taking Tuesday matinee bookings if there's any
in Saskatchewan against jumping Jim Miller, the 20-year vet. He's had 19 matches. But I mean, ultimately, when I started wrestling, I didn't really know what to do. I didn't know what I wanted to present myself as. And my friend Peter Sanzone, friend of our show, and hopefully friend of the show, I'll tell him to listen. He basically said, like, why don't you just wrestle as CPA? So he's like, just come out with a button-down shirt, whatever, just do your thing. And I was like, well, I got to wear a pink shirt because, the episode of The Simpsons where, Homer's shirts went in with the red hat and he had a pink shirt. I was like, and I got to wear a clip-on tie so I can get it pulled off during matches and we can work some sort of magic there. And, it's been dizzying highs and creamy middles, but, it's we took a little break, but we're back and things have genuinely been 1,000 times better than I could have pictured them being at this stage for where I was a year ago, 6 months ago, 2 months ago. So yeah, CPA, that's it. It's just the American dream in a very oafish kind of presentation.
Well, I mean, seeing from the YouTube, you're obviously very, as they say, popular with the fans as CPA. So much so as sitting next to a little girl and her not high-fiving you and then actually high-fiving you during yours and Troy's match to gain that pop from the crowd. Yeah. Troy, the top shelf gimmick, where'd you come up with that?
So I'm a lifelong fan of wrestling. In particular, when I was a kid, if you had a character, like a true gimmick, I liked it. And I still, here we are, nearly 31 years old, I still love the guys who had a second job on the weekend. Guys like Henry Godwin, the hog farmer, Duke the Dumpster Drosy, the trash man. The Goon was a hockey player, a wrestler, Wild Bill Irwin.
And now he's a worthless drunk, apparently.
Is Bill Irwin in rough shape these days?
I don't know. He did a podcast and he got yelled at for giving an answer someone didn't want to
hear. Anyways, I always thought, especially as I got a little older, I'm like, how come there's never been a bartender wrestler? And I said, like, I wonder, like, I never knew, like, I don't know if I'm going to make it to WrestleMania against John Cena, but I bet I can be
on a show with John Cena Sr.
Yes, probably. In New England, it happens more often than not. But I said, I bet that would be me. Troy Nelson's a portmanteau. It's not a portmanteau, I suppose, but it's a combination of my brother's name, Troy, and my father's name, Nelson, and Top Shelf. Yeah, Top Shelf liqueurs. Even though I play a guy who just drinks behind the bar, basically, falls ass backwards into victories if he's winning, and just gets his ass kicked usually for 80% of the match. And it's worked. I've had, between that, I've also had a lot of opportunities to do commentary for some bigger shows. And I spent 3 years as a referee for Shakara as well. It's fun. I've got all these curios I'm still cleaning up. I still have right here, right now. I have so many different.
Troy's been waiting to bust this out on a podcast for 3 years.
No, I have so much stuff I need to get rid of. I'm not trying to sell these, but I have them in this pile here. My Shakara referee shirts. Nick, can I try to get you to buy this Hulk Hogan finger?
If you hold on to that, I may know somebody who would actually purchase that from you. So
Canada shipping and everything else.
The hugest Hogan mark, I'm pretty sure, on the planet still. So yeah, I mean, I saw you got to watch wrestle the great legend Swoggle.
I had a little stretch where I got to wrestle everyone I wanted somehow. I wrestled Hornswoggle. I wrestled Colt Cabana. A guy he became a good friend of mine, Super Cop Dick Justice. I know he's made his rounds up in Canada for Alpha One, Ethan Page's promotion, as well as the guy who I consider still like my favorite match I've had is Japanese legend. I'm not afraid to use that term, Kikutaro. Yeah, Ebasan, Kikutaro. I was so nervous about that one in particular because I was nervous about the language barrier. And it was perfect. We figured it out. We let it just happen, and it's one of my favorite matches. People say it's one of my better matches. So I like to add that element of comedy. I really enjoy doing it. It's fun. It's a fun break on certain points of the show. I feel like every show should have a little something like that, and I'm happy to be that show's little something.
Yeah, as a wrestling fan overall, but also an indie fan, it's watching. I got to say, like watching you guys on YouTube and Mark and such prior to Mark's AEW run with Jade Cargill. It makes me miss the independent shows that we haven't been able to have in Canada in a long time. So I got to say, you guys are like getting me back into wanting to go catch indie shows.
Listen, I want to come. I have the thing that kills me. I have an invitation, and I just haven't taken it up to work with Alpha One, A1 in Canada, as well as Kaizen, Alderney Landing. They're where are they? Maritimes area.
Oh yeah, okay.
They're starting to become pretty popular. It's funny because if you want to start getting back into shows, I'll tell you this. I know Maritimes is a little bit of a trip for you, but what I'm saying is those guys put on a hell of a show, and the pandemic has not been kind to them. I will say that and even at the beginning of this year, they thought they were going to be able to hit the ground running a little bit. And they did not. They're finally going to have a show, I believe, in July.
Yeah.
And I'm happy for a lot of those guys out there because a lot of hard workers over there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Atlantics or the Maritimes are doing a lot better when it comes to COVID, except for one of the provinces. They're doing a lot better, thankfully, than we did here in Quebec or Ontario. Speaking of, like, there's C4 based out of Ottawa, so that would be another one that I'd probably have a chance to see you guys, unless you were up here in Montreal at IWS, where they didn't have it at a very small bar where I can't stand for 4 hours anymore. So
I did the interspecies wrestling tryout show in Connecticut back in, 2014.
Huh.
I think that match did make it to YouTube. It's got to still be up there somewhere probably. And
I know one of the promoters personally, so it's hilarious to hear that, having them with a wrestling Killer Panda and
super fun shows.
Yeah.
Listen, it doesn't matter what type of costumes you put him in. You put Mike Bailey out there against Shinron, you're going to have a banger of a match. Listen, who is Mike Bailey? I'm a magician giving away secrets. Everyone knew it was him. He was the Fox. Well, Kitsune. He was Kitsune, Mike Bailey. Yes. And he was awesome. He was awesome.
Next, you're going to start telling us who all the ants were in Shikara. But
no. That would never. Sworn to secrecy. Sworn to secrecy on that.
Dan Champion was Super Bomberan or whatever.
No, he was offered the position. He didn't take it. Yes.
Speaking of you reffing in Shikara, did you ref the one show that they had here in Montreal when they came?
I did not come over the border.
Okay.
I did not. I came on board. Let's see. It was I just didn't make it to Canada that time. I was came on late 2014 through the beginning of 2017. And I was a regular. So I did like North Carolina. I did Florida for WrestleMania weekend, which was really cool. That was my WrestleMania weekend experience, was refereeing 2 shows.
Troy's WrestleMania moment.
Yeah, yes, refereeing for Shikara. Yes.
He pointed to Bryce's head and he said, "This is it."
This is it. But yeah, I got to do a lot of traveling with them, and I really enjoyed my time with them. I was always, and we got to wrestle for Shikara off the hop rope.
What a great night! What a great
one of their last years around. We did a 6-man tag, a trios contest against the Proteus Wheel. I don't know if you're familiar with Big Calyx as a member of that. But we did that at a brewery, Love City Brewery in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So it was just the perfect smatterings of all the things we like.
I want to go back there. They had a great cherry beer there.
They had a very good selection.
I still think about that almost every day.
So, Yards Brewing, when Nick and I beat the hell out of each other at Pro Wrestling Explosion in Philly.
Oh, yeah. We had a Caribbean strap match.
Before the show, we walk over to Yards Brewing and get a beer over there.
Unfortunately, the picture evidence of me being there, I just bought a new tanner that I hadn't really tested it out, and I looked like Savio Vega.
You look like Hogan in '98 when he was running for president.
It was a little much. I didn't really know what I was getting myself into.
As a fellow pasty person, and seeing your tag match in, I believe it was Maine at what looked like a festival of some sort.
Limitless, yeah.
The La Kermesse Festival.
Yes,
it's me and Nick versus
MAD.
What was it?
There's
yeah.
a masked guy and a guy who honestly to me looked like a creator wrestler type fellow. But...
Yeah, Perry Von Vicious. That's what we say about him here and in North America too. That's what we say. And Iron Rip Bison. He was formerly Tomahawk. He's Iron Rip Bison now. You can definitely see him at Kaizen once the borders are like really kind of back to being open.
It's coming. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to getting back to the U.S. and interviewing breweries there as well. Personally living 2 hours away from Vermont and the main part of Burlington. I'm going to keep myself. Or we're going to keep the show busy.
You spend a week. Spend a week out there if you can.
So I mean, we might as well skip to this question. Speaking of spending time on beercations, let's say you guys, each of you individually, could go on a beercation. I love adding the caveat where, yes, I have a job, I have a life, I have a wife or kid to go back to. Kind of the 1 week thing, and then that's for the short beercation, and then the long beercation is I won the Powerball. I can wrestle or just go drink beer anywhere in the world. What are those two like beercations you guys would love to go on?
For me, it is Vermont. I've had a lot of Vermont beer, but I have not done the brewery trips myself. I keep saying I'm going to make it out there eventually, just for a little weekend. You can always do a bunch of them. Alchemist, Lawson, Zero Gravity, Foam Brewers. There's so many, and like you can't do them all in a day. You can't do them all in a weekend, and you can't drink all the beers at even one brewery in a day. You have to commit yourself to that brewery. But there's so many that I'd like to do, and their own, becomes food trucks and really good kitchens. So I would say the beer vacation is Vermont. Close second is Maine, but I get to go to Maine often enough where Bissell Brothers, I'll be going up. We have our boys' trip to Maine coming up in a couple weeks, and I leave
Eustis.
early. I'm going to get to getting useless in Eustis, baby. Eustis is about 3.5 to 3 hours away from the Canadian border, if I'm correct. But I'll go to Bissell Brothers. They just added a kitchen of their own. They always rented out half a spot to a window where like they used to have good burgers and a good chicken shack there. They had like an okay Mexican place for a little bit, but now Bissell Brothers has their own actual kitchen there and it looks excellent. So I'm going to have lunch there, grab my beers before I head up to the lake and get useless in Eustis. So Vermont first, Maine second.
Okay. If you ever are in Vermont, shoot me a quick line. I may not be able to make it to meet you, but if you want to,
you will immediately quit your job and drive like a maniac to meet me.
I know this might sound insane, but I actually enjoy my job. No. But I could send you a condensed list of like how to literally walk around. Maybe it's like a total of 4 hours of walking during the day, but you could hit 8 breweries.
That's the problem, though. I'm a guy who, once I sit down, I want to spend 2 hours in the brewery. It's tough. Yeah. That's the problem.
You did mention Zero Gravity, and the best part about Zero Gravity is right across the street, there's Queen City Brewing in Vermont. Literally right across, I think it's like Main Street or US 7 or whatever it is. So it's like, I could drink here. I could drink here. There's a pizza place right next to it.
Zero Gravity, for what it's worth here in the States, is more bang for your buck. You can get a 4-pack of their Conehead traditional American IPA for $12-13. Yeah. You can get their Green State Lager, $11 for a 4-pack. There's not a lot of places still doing that left, but like that, their double still a $14 4-pack. But it's not like they're skimping on ingredients. Yeah. Their pale ale I have seen for $10 to $12 for a 4-pack. Little Wolf. They do a great job.
Have you had their Oktoberfest?
No.
Oh, fantastic beer.
Isn't it crazy that I have not had their Oktoberfest? And I'll tell you why. Right here in the town I live in right now, Amesbury, I went a little buck wild. They have, it's called Marzen Retrograde, which we did on our podcast last October. I stock up on that. And then October is my favorite time for beers anyways. So not that I can't have multiple Oktoberfests, but I only have so much of that at the same time that I have, crazy candy stouts, as well as other like dark beers and everything else that's coming into the mix for October. But Zero Gravity is going to be, I'll be looking for their Oktoberfest this year.
Nick, yourself?
My beercation for the weekend, Troy knows the answer. It's Newmarket, New Hampshire. I'm going to Deciduous?
What? He just wants to go to one brewery, Deciduous.
That's literally the brewery I want to go to. I've been meaning to go up there. I've made so many like half-assed attempts to go up there. Just drop in and pick up anything. Every time I go up there, time constraints, travel constraints, whatever, it never works out. But one of these days, I'm gonna go up there. Now that things are opening up again, I'm gonna go up there. I'm gonna sit there. I'm gonna enjoy whatever they have to offer me because they're just everything I've had from there has been great so far. Also, I was in Minnesota for the first time recently, and they have a million breweries there, and I need to go to all of them. So that would be like my Powerball destination.
Nice.
I only had one or two of them, but they were really good. I forgot what the names were because I was drinking and memory. CTE. But yeah, I guess my Powerball would be Minnesota just because again they have like in such a small cluster in like the St. Paul area. They have like there's like 10, 50, whatever. I'm probably overestimating, but there's a bunch of breweries there. I've heard they were all great. Some of them have sours, so I'm in it. But yeah, my weekend is Deciduous in Newmarket, New Hampshire.
I definitely suggest you guys make it up to Montreal. We're becoming flush. We actually had 3 breweries open during the pandemic. So
hell yeah.
I hope they're doing well.
2 of them very much are. One of them is contract right now. So they're talking about making their own place. And
as long as they're contract and they're just making straight money, then good. They're not paying as many bills. But,
and two of them decided the letter M was good because there's melon and then there's mutant or mutsoid. So yeah, which is great. Hopeful future interviews for all beer inside. Did you guys ever think of maybe doing let's say head out to Europe and work the nights Soraya, Pages, families, let's say fed out there and then hitting breweries in Europe and stuff? Would that kind of be like a small little dream for Off the Hop Rope?
Of course, I think about things like that. They haven't happened yet, but I think about things like that all the time. I actually recently did a very big sidetrack here. I recently was put in contact with someone who participates in the Death Tour up in what is that, like Manitoba or whatever?
Yeah, it's
that still happens.
It still happens,
upper
and
Manitoba.
I was recently referred to one of the people, not the main guy, but one of the people who kind of participates in that. I doubt there's any breweries up there because there's not even roads up there. But big sidetrack. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's very desolate. So be careful. That's all I can suggest. If you,
I'm not saying I'm definitely going to do it, but it's a. I don't know if I have like 3 weeks to kill.
From the wrestlers that I know who have made it out of there, it's a make or break type of thing. It's either you're gonna wrestle for the rest of your life or be like, forget it, I don't want to die on an icy surface in the middle of Manitoba.
If I haven't done it by now, I guess I'm stuck here. So,
Nick, are you wrestling in Alaska? Are you allowed to?
Sure am.
Are you wrestling in Alaska? Come on, that's really cool.
Very excited for that.
That's really cool. Nick versus a polar bear.
We're going for a moose first because it's going to be in August. So let's not go for polar bears. Go for moose. I still haven't seen a moose, so let's get the bucket list down.
Go for the legs. They're very skinny legs. So
yes.
You go for the head. You're done. That's all I'm going to tell you. So I haven't personally seen a friend of I know a friend of mine has repeatedly said he's pretty sure he could take out a moose, and I repeatedly say you're gonna die.
I don't want to find out. I wouldn't want to find out.
It's that's a lot of power in those horns. So I would say no. And it is our one of our national animals here in Canada, besides the beaver and the deadly flying snake known as a Canadian goose. So
ooh.
Yeah, they're vicious. Having started playing disc golf and almost being attacked by multiple, not fun. So
these Canadian gooses.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Is Letterkenny as popular in Canada as it is here in America?
It's
I love
it's up there. And we were already watching Schitt's Creek before it won all the Emmys and stuff.
We also like Schitt's Creek. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. Now I know you guys have a bunch of indie wrestlers on your shows all the time. You've had Brian Malonis, Max Smashmaster. I'm failing on other names right now, but when you guys bring them into the show, what kind of makes you just like get them into craft beer? Obviously, I'm pretty sure, like I've seen Malonis is drinking with the Beer City Bruiser. They don't look like the craft beer type. How'd you guys attempt to shift them into craft beer?
Max Smashmaster's always had a taste for craft beer, actually. It doesn't take a lot of convincing. People like, say, Brian Malonis, he's going to always usually just drink a Coors Light. We always kind of cater to him a little bit when he's around. But Danny Doring was on our podcast, ECW wrestler Danny Doring, and he drank a local craft beer from the New Jersey area. Nick, who else have we converted a little bit to craft beer? Who else? Hornswoggle had a craft beer with us.
I mean, Hornswoggle's a drinker.
Yes, he is.
I remember I wasn't there, but Mark did a bonus episode with VSK and MJF, and MJF was actually getting buzzed during the episode. I don't think
he was
MJF...
drinking like ciders. MJF doesn't drink beer.
He's a gluten guy, so he can only drink certain stuff. But yeah, he was starting to get a little buzz towards the end of the show.
Yeah, he probably had a cider and a half. MJF.
Like, I don't know. Like Chris Statlander doesn't drink. She was on the show. She drank apple juice.
Chris Statlander got some Honest Aid Kids juice boxes.
Apple juice.
I know you guys had a was it a craft soda? I know you had somebody drinking root beer, but was it craft root beer? Or was it?
We had cream soda with Mike Quacken.
Cream soda.
Right, yeah.
A Treat brand, which is like a staple of that area of Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They just signed a deal with I just saw it. Dan Champion posted it today. A Treat soda that they Mike and Ike's. They have like cherry Mike and Ike A Treat and strawberry Mike and Ike A Treat.
I might try that. I don't drink soda, but I might try that.
Yeah.
You familiar with Mike and Ike's? You got Mike and Ike's up there?
The candy, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, very much so. I'm not sure if the breweries in your areas are doing it. I know some are here. They're starting to produce craft sodas.
Alcoholic craft sodas?
Yeah, no, regular. Former interview Ian from Whippersnapper started producing a root beer. And he literally said it so him and like somebody could come in with their son and I'm drinking a beer with daddy, and the kid's drinking a root beer and the dad's drinking beer. Are there any like local craft breweries you know of producing craft soda?
Craft soda near me, no. However, a lot of places are trying to capitalize on seltzer at the moment.
Yes,
like hard seltzer. Although I love the more wholesome version of making root beer in Canada, people are trying to just scrounge up money here in the States. So it's like all these brewers that are being like head brewers that if they don't own the brewery are being asked by their owners and stockholders, like, why don't you make a nice pineapple hard seltzer? And these brewers want to kill themselves.
Yes.
My buddy Jay Barnum is the owner of the Tap Brewing Company, where I did a little bit of cellar work and I managed the bar and bartended there, whatever. And John, the owner, John Fahamian's like, I noticed people are drinking those seltzers. Jay, why don't we make one of those? And Jay's like, I won't. Like, I will not. John's like, do you not know how? He's like, I know how. I won't be doing that. You don't need any extra things. You got all the material to make it. And he's just like, nope, we are a brewery for beer. And that's how some people are. And I think that people shouldn't have to compromise what they believe in and what they want to do. However, places like Night Shift out of Boston, Everett, Mass. Yeah, they have a whole series, the Hoot Seltzer. It's getting popular, That's just what it is.
No, it's the same thing here in where I live. It's called Masorum Bractorium, which is Reaper Brewing from Latin to English. They won, I think it's 2019 Canadian New Brewery of the Year. And they right away, smoothie seltzers.
Smoothies. Oh, so not even just smoothie beer, smoothie seltzers.
So they went right and they're selling out. So obviously they know their crowd. Like you said, adapting. And you mentioned you've worked at a brewery now together or as a hop rope on it as a whole. Could you guys see yourselves collabing when it comes to a beer with a brewery?
We would have loved to, whether it be the Tap in Haverhill, where I have good roots. Our dear friend, Jeremy Leary, at 2 weeks' notice, he is an apprentice brewer, true apprentice brewer. And it's to the point now where he is making his own recipes, doing it on himself. He is almost no longer an apprentice. He's been at it for a couple of years now. Mm-hmm. And we always said, like, it'd be fun if we, paired up with them and did something. Those are the two places we could think of off the top of our heads. Nick, any other breweries that you could think of that would want to pair up with our schmucky faces?
I mean, I'm sure I've drank enough Michelob Ultra at this point that maybe we could, I could call in a favor. I don't know. I mean, honestly, like if we did one with 2 weeks, that would be sweet. I would absolutely love that.
More like a Nick Ultra, am I right?
Yeah.
Nick Ultra.
Hey. Kind of like, you guys are obviously have your each type of styles when it comes to wrestling. What kind of style do you feel it would be for you guys to collaborate and brew with?
So, and I think that especially just because it's not necessarily because it's Mark's favorite, but like we do a lot of the hazy New England style IPAs. Two of the members of this podcast are from New England, and then there's Nick. But I think the most like excited like people like Mark and Nick to a degree, other than sour and stuff, but like when you have a nice hazy juicy IPA that's good, that's really good, nothing's better when you have something like that. But I would say that for our podcast at least, while it may not be my favorite style, I love them, maybe not my favorite. I feel like an off the hop rope podcast beer would have to be a New England style IPA.
Yeah, just basic general principle.
Yeah.
Very cool. I was also super jealous that you guys got to try the Warheads out of artisanal ale from Saratoga Springs.
I will tell you this, like some of them were good, but now they're old news. Now they're sitting on the shelves. It was like a while where you couldn't even find it. Like it would sell out in 20 minutes at the, like, at distribution. Mm-hmm. And me and Nick still argue. I still think that, what did I say? Watermelon is the best or green apple?
You like green apple. Green apple tastes like if you're literally drinking Irish Spring soap.
Green apple tasted like a green apple Warhead. It was so good. I thought it was excellent. And I was originally thinking I'm probably not going to like that. I thought it was excellent. That and watermelon were my favorites. Blue raspberry's kind of a cop-out. Tasted like raspberry with that sour powder. Mm-hmm. The cherry just tastes like any old cherry sour. And
I like the cherry.
Lemon sours I avoid just because they do nothing for me. It's
watermelon
already sour enough. It's like I'll just drink lemon juice and not have the calories. I think I still have a lemon Warhead sour still down in my fridge downstairs. I think.
I'll take it.
Send her over. Next time you come up this way.
I have hope that the border will reopen in sometime in September, October, so I can personally make it down to Saratoga Springs myself. I think we're almost about the same distance. I'm a 3-hour drive from Saratoga Springs, so it's I'm hoping to get down to visit them and other breweries in Saratoga. They also have an amazing concert venue where if you guys could actually somehow book a show there as either Limitless or AIW, it's called the SPAC. I don't know if you guys are aware of it. It's a semi, like, it's open on the sides, giant amphitheater with a rooftop.
How many does it sit?
Oh, a couple of thousand.
Yeah, we could probably fill the house right now. You and me.
I think so.
You get all the Montreal indie fans who are allowed to travel down to America, and everybody in the kind of northeast part of the USA. So
could have a variety show with PCP, Crazy F and Manny, and the Green Phantom, and Shane Hawk. We could just have we'd draw 3,000 people, Nick. Easy. I love Shane Hawk.
I think Shane Hawk retired from wrestling.
He teaches. ISW has a school, and he teaches. He's like the head trainer there.
Yeah, and he's also
a good trainer.
Their face. Yeah. No, having watched all the guys you mentioned since pretty much the inception of IWS back in the day, in a crappy little basement bar where it was 4 kind of pillars that held up the building that they used and tied literal rope around as a ring. Those guys have come a far way. Having the Young Bucks in one of their shows before it closed, having Rey Mysterio at one of our bigger concert venues here in Montreal. It's they've come a long way. So if you guys could, as friends, as a show, as a business venture, could you see yourselves opening a brewery with like a performance area inside it with a wrestling ring, a concert venue, stuff like that?
Wouldn't that be incredible? There's a little abandoned store. I say store. It was called Building 19, and it was basically if like a store would go out of business, any type of store, or a store would like to get everything damaged in like a hurricane, whatever remaining product was left that wasn't damaged, they would just buy it up, and it was just this enormous, monstrous, huge store. You could go in and be like, oh look, Jones Soda is on sale for like $3.50 for a 4-pack because someone was murdered in the store that it was coming from. And prison jumpsuits on sale for I don't know why. That was a real thing once. Building 19 was the best. It is nothing there now. It's literally just empty space. They should turn that into something. I could imagine there being a huge brewery there with a venue to have, mediocre bands from the 90s play like Green Jelly, like Vitamin C, to like just go play.
Soul Asylum.
And of course, pro wrestling.
Yes. Well, I'm not sure if you guys are aware, here in Montreal, we have a professional wrestling cover band called the WrestleManiacs.
Why does that sound familiar?
They perform wrestling tunes. They actually cut a promo on me once because I was wearing an NWO shirt, and they pointed at me and they're like, "Hey, listen to me, you jobber." I'm like, "Oh my god, somebody's got a promo on me."
I am a jobber.
And I'm like, "Oh, I am a jobber."
Yeah.
So, and I'm like, maybe I could tell him to give me a stunner, but he's dressed like Macho Man, so maybe not. So.
Off-brand.
Yeah, no, all these guys dress up as it's Macho Man, Hogan, Bret Hart, Stone Cold, and I can't remember the other one, but they're a 5-man band called WrestleManiacs. I'm sure once the world opens, they'd love to perform at any indie shows you guys know. So
WrestleMania,
yeah, it's fun times.
Look them up.
Cool. So with you guys being on hiatus, do you when it comes back, like what's kind of next for Off the Hop Rope? Do you believe when the return happens?
Well, I mean, I want to kind of pick up where we left off. We kind of switched into like a season format. I wasn't in love with it. And I feel like the last episode that we did, we had a bonus episode that's Demolition and the Hart Foundation. But our last episode is Canyon versus Saturn from the Great American Bash 98. I want to get back to more of those banger matches that you don't think about, that maybe don't have enough attention on, and dedicate, but get back to dedicating full episodes to those 13-minute matches that have kind of flown under the radar over the years. Those are my favorite episodes. I always feel like those are our best episodes. So I'm hoping that when we get back at it, not only will maybe with Mark's connections, maybe it could be on a grander stage. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I'm hoping we can get back to that. But yeah, that's what I could see it as. More Mortis matches, basically, if you're a WCW fan from 98. More Alex Wright matches, more Papa Shango matches. Yes, that's
I actually really liked the season idea, but I think that we could do mini seasons, and then we could also kind of, stuff 4 matches that Troy is currently referring to into a season, 4, 5, 6, whatever. And we, stuff like that was on the table. And I think whenever we do resume our activities, we will certainly work towards that. Because obviously we can't always be, all right, here's 8 episodes on, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Here's 8 episodes on Ultimate Warrior. Like we do have to have oddity seasons. So we're going to do that. Well, I mean, ideally we will do that eventually when things get back on course. But yeah, I personally liked the season idea, and I saw a lot more engagement, social media engagement. I saw a lot more people responding to our episodes when we were doing that. And again, like we had the Patreon going, and that was fun too, because we were doing videos, we were doing, these weird offshoot posts on there. So yeah, that was, I think once we transitioned into a more concentrated format, things were a lot more fun for me personally. But again, and I was the one pretty much posting everything on social media every week and making sure everything went out on time and making sure everything was spelled correctly and everything, all the weird pictures of Giant Gonzalez were out there just so people knew what was going on. So yeah, for me, that was more enjoyable as a format. But I don't know. I'm open to anything. We also kind of entertain, maybe we'll do 4 just random episodes. Again, Alex Wright against the Gambler from WCW Saturday Night. Maybe this, that, and the other thing. I don't hate those. I love those. So, I think we could do a few soft weeks and then go back into a season. But, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But in the meantime, I'm very happy that Mark is doing his thing. Obviously I'm trying to do my thing, trying to do his thing. So we're just vibing right now. We're vibing. But I'm happy everyone is doing well right now. And, as long as we can all come back together, we have an idea of where we want to go with it. I am okay with, I was very resistant. I was like, Troy, you and I have to do it. We have to keep going. Let's keep going. And I'm still not against it, but initially I was like, no, we can't stop. We've been every week.
The thing that I think is tough about it is that we had this lull where we weren't taking bookings. I was the most sporadic out of them all. But Nick would wrestle
I wasn't
every
not
week.
Taking bookings. I was just respecting government mandates.
Correct.
Really.
But what I'm saying is the best stories we have is when we kick off our pod, it's well, what did you do this weekend? Nick has gone to 3 different states, has funny stories, saw something crazy that happened at the indie show.
Yeah.
That, at the same time,
I had a couple things that were going to be going on like last spring that got, canceled. And then that was kind of like one of the best parts. So I think the part that, like I said, like what kind of stinks about it now is Nick is now back to traveling to Minnesota and Virginia and all these places. And Nick gets into the most fun trouble when he is out there.
Sure
he
do.
always has a good story to tell. And I think
Troy,
that's
let me tell you, I have a word file on my phone.
A
dedicated
backlog
to
now,
all
I
these
bet.
things.
Yeah.
I have a backlog. So when we come back, the episode is going to be 16 hours long.
Like,
It's just going to be
Nick, what did you do last year at this
What have you
time?
done the last 15 months?
I have so much to talk about.
That really kills me because that's the first time you've told me that. But like the stuff that you see, especially in these crazy little towns doing indie wrestling and stuff. Like I was just in Maine this past weekend. By the time you listen to this, probably like a couple weeks back, but just traveling up to Maine, the people you see, and you just see a lot of fun stuff. And yeah, that's stuff I miss talking about that. And like, I think people really looked forward to that stuff the most.
Some of our highest listened to episodes were when Nick got into something weird.
We don't swear on this podcast, so we certainly can't tell the story of.
We absolutely cannot tell any of the stories on the podcast, but
on this podcast at least.
No,
there is. Are all the episodes available through Apple iTunes?
Yeah,
iTunes, Spotify, Podbean.
Okay, I'll get to the heart of the matter. If you want the probably the most scandalous one, it's the
Bam Bam Bigelow Lawrence
Bam Bigelow.
episode.
Second place would be
2019, right?
Yeah, second place would be the what is it? The Cacti City Brewing episode where the stiff mic incident. And then the Balls Mahoney episode is always the one I refer people to when they say, What's the episode I can sink my teeth into? Justin Summers, friend of this show and our show, he literally cornered me at AIW during intermission, and he said, "Hey, sell me on your podcast." I said, "Listen to the Balls Mahoney episode," and he did.
Just listening to people tell stories about Balls Mahoney is the best.
Good cameos, good stories, crazy stuff. I do miss that though. That's another thing. Again, like now that shows are happening, and I do like. Every week I'm like something weird's happening. I run into someone. I have some weird interaction with someone. I'm like, man, this Monday, this Tuesday, I could tell the guys about those.
Yes.
I can't now, but so yeah, I do have a very loose kind of word file on my phone right now, filled with all these things that eventually I'm gonna have to tell on the podcast. Because unfortunately, I can't record some of these things. So there we go.
Perfect. Yeah, no, I mean, as a listener, as you mentioned, for those in the mail truck, for me, it's for those sitting in front of my work laptop in my house, in my upstairs office. It's like, okay, let's listen to what these guys say. And just your camaraderie between all three of you, you can tell, like, you guys are brothers in a sense.
We're friends. Oh, yes.
It's quite amazing that you've obviously shared road stories together. You've shared beer stories together, you've shared life stories together, so you can tell it's you guys have love for each other, which is fantastic.
It was the episode the week after we all did Chikara together. We had it's a good thing and a bad thing that we had Bryce Remsburg on the show. We had Bryce on the show and he was great. He was a great addition. But for me, just like the sense of, because 2019 was not a great year for me, especially the early half of it. But that Chikara show, like right smack dab in the middle of the year, was such a nice relief for me that I just wanted to like be really like have this like big bromance on the show about it. Cause I was like, guys, like this is like probably the best day I've had this year. Like the best weekend, but the best day. Just
you
like
always feel better when you have a good match too. That helps. We had a good match. We did.
Yeah.
I'm not tooting my own horn.
Everything, all like it came up Millhouse that day for me and for all of us. But yeah, to beat the dead horse. I do miss that, but obviously we'll be back eventually, and we'll probably, Mark and I will drink, again, like Troy was saying, like, marijuana in a glass, and I'll tell all my stories.
Maybe
you torpedo from Sierra Nevada.
You got to talk to Mark about bringing down to Jacksonville. That's about all. So,
yeah, we'll see.
We'll have Mark call up Tony, and that'll be it.
Exactly. Do you see yourself naming a beer for your Johnny Cage Splits Nut Punch, Troy?
The old so it's two names. It's Johnny Cage's Revenge, or the Split That Don't Miss, a la that'd be
Johnny B.
Mark
Bad.
Marrow / Johnny B. Bad's Punch, which was the Kiss That Don't Miss.
Yeah.
So it's the Split That Don't Miss
There you
or
go.
Johnny Cage's Revenge. Both have been used. They're, you know, I like getting to work the scrambles just because I can't get disqualified for it. Really easy to plug that in somewhere, and it's well received wherever it goes. So.
Oh, that's awesome, guys. I have another question. This talk has been fantastic. I really appreciate you guys taking time out of your schedules today to speak with us. If you have anything to promote or anything like that, please let my viewers know.
Nick, I'll let Nick go first. I'm sure Nick has bookings up the wazoo right now. What do you got coming up, Nick?
I actually don't. July's pretty light for me, but you could find me on Twitter and Instagram at CPA Wrestles. Actually, it just hit me now. I have a Facebook fan page, but it's literally just called CPA, and there's probably 4,000 other Facebook pages called CPA.
4,000 other wrestling accountants.
4,000 other wrestling accounts, but this is the real
accountants.
one.
Yeah.
Wrestling accountants.
This is the genuine wrestling CPA. There was actually a wrestling accountant character in the UK, I think, a few years ago. I remember I was at work and I opened it and I was like, well, my wrestling career is done.
Yeah.
I haven't heard from him since, but coming up, I don't know. August is actually pretty packed for me. July is kind of whatever right now. But again, as I always say on the podcast, if you follow me, or as I said on the podcast back in the day, if you follow me on Twitter, I promote pretty much everything I have going on. So just follow me there at CPA Wrestles. If you don't want to follow me, if you just want to like, get notifications to your phone, but not follow me, that's cool too. You want to be one of those weirdos? I've had a lot of those weirdos. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, that's it. I can't think off the top of my head of what I have coming up in July. A lot of stuff in August. But Troy, hold on. Let me turn it back a little bit. Hey, Troy.
Yeah.
You're replacing that pool cover or what, bud?
Oh boy. On the weekends that I wasn't wrestling, it was like, Troy, what bar mitzvah are you going to?
What appliance are you going to be replacing in your house?
What new toaster are you getting?
Which of your parents are you bringing to the dentist this week?
Yes, right. Find me on Twitter at Top Shelf Troy, the beer centric Instagram that I have annoyed, Troy Off the Hop Rope. And of course, even though we are not as active on there anymore, you can find us, our podcast, Off the Hop Rope, on Twitter, at Off the Hop Rope. Where can you find me? Coming up, IWTV.com. Limitless Wrestling has a show coming up in 2 weeks, I believe the 9th, next Thursday, maybe? Or sorry, wait, when's this airing? The 9th?
July 9th. It's a Friday.
That's a Friday. That's airing tonight or yesterday. The most recent Limitless Wrestling show. I do commentary on that. You can find me commentating and wrestling for Limitless Wrestling coming up in later summer and the fall. Find me at Blitzkrieg Pro. I'm going to be at Blitzkrieg Pro quite a bit late summer into the fall as well, out of Connecticut. Yes. Oh, yes, Nick. It is because the fans have been jonesing for me versus King Crab one-on-one in the most perfect second match on a card of all time. The second match of the evening.
It's not curtain jerking.
Troy Nelson versus King Crab.
My favorite Troy quote ever was, I want to have a match of Bobby Orlando, and he's going to beat me with a dragon sleeper in 6 minutes.
6 minutes?
He doesn't do a dragon sleeper.
It's going to be the second match on the card. It's going to be the second match on the card.
There's always time to learn that dragon sleeper. I got to ask Nick, though, as CPA, when are you wrestling IRS?
So you know what's messed up about that? In 2015, I had a match with EC3. And then like a week or two later, I went to the big event in Queens. That's like a big convention signing thing. And I ran into EC3. He was signing there and he said hi to me, which I wasn't expecting because whatever. So like these names, they just wrestle some schlub like me and they're like, all right, see you never. He like said hi to me. He's like, yo, IRS is like down the hall from me. Do you have your gear on you? And I was like, well, no, because there's no wrestling happening here and I'm not signing. So we missed that nice little photo op there because I was like, I'm not going to take a picture of him with my Slipknot t-shirt or whatever I was wearing.
I was going to say, what did you do? Drive Jerry Sags there or something? Why were you at the big
No,
event?
I think I just went there to like flyer for a PWS show or something weird like
right.
that. But yeah, I was like, dude, I can't. it's not perfect enough for me to show up here and then be like, oh hey, I'm here wearing like a 7 Mary 3 tank top. I'm gonna take a picture with the IRS, So it was a missed photo op. One of these days gonna be actually okay. There was talks of me doing a seg with IRS at like Outlaw Wrestling like 3 years ago, which unfortunately never came to fruition. One of these days, someone's gonna make it work, and it's gonna happen. I don't think he can physically wrestle anymore, but someone's gonna make it work.
Well, Mike Rotundo is not bumping no more.
No.
Ted DiBiase's been saving that bump that he did a couple weeks ago on NXT for 20 years. That Lloyd of London must have finally ran up, and he's gonna start bumping for his money.
At Mike Rotunda, if you want to have a match, if you want to strap him up one more time, I will take all the bumps. Trust me.
Maybe I believe Bo is currently unemployed, so maybe Bo can dress up as his dad and
IRS Junior.
Yeah, exactly. So, and you could be the battle of the IRS versus the certified public accountant. So that'd be great. Awesome. Once again, guys, thanks a lot. Really appreciate it. As for us, we're allbeerinside.com's website, at allbeerinside on all social media. If you'd like to follow me, I'm at Killer Carpe Diem. It's usually Thursday night beer tastings and Saturday night beer and horror movies that I like to combine. When you have I'm hoping our merch store is going to be up. Speaking of which, you guys have prowrestlingtees.com/offthehop-rope.
Sure do.
Correct. Still there. Still very much there.
So everything we've mentioned at the end for these plugs will be at the bottom of the episode. If you liked what you watched today, subscribe and hit that notification bell for future episodes as well. Likes always help. You can also subscribe on Apple iTunes for the podcast. We currently have a problem with the website, but it will be getting updated hopefully very shortly. And as I say at the end of all episodes, drink craft, not crap.